Добрый вечер.
Good afternoon. We are broadcasting live from Moscow Urban Forum, and this is a real showcase, not just a discussion, not a theoretical panel, but specifically it's a showcase where we discuss technologies and trends of city farming. It's entitled In Food We Trust. We talk about how to make cities accessible and making them inclusive, not just for people, but for the cities, turning into sites where you can grow food products. And this is a new trend. It's vertical farming. And here it gives excellent results. Every year they gain 20% in terms of growth, and today we are going to discuss with an amazing panel of speakers. Let me introduce them to you. Here in the room we have Denis Kosternoy, first deputy head of the Department of Trade and Services of the City of Moscow. Was I right pronouncing your last name? Peter van Wingerden is supposed to be online with us. He is CEO of Floating Farm from the Netherlands. That's an amazing case next to Rotterdam. Anatoly Kazakov, the chef of the Selfie Guidon restaurant. Alexander Liskovsky from iFarm, something that started in Novosibirsk, and it's not just in Russia but all over the world. And Pascal Hardy is president of Aeroponics from Paris, France. First, let me give the floor to Peter van Wingerden. The case that was shown in Rotterdam impressed not just journalists who came to report on it, but in general became a new trend in farming. Let me briefly introduce that. Near Rotterdam, there's a floating farm where in 2017 there were 23 cows, in 2019 40 cows, and what's going on there today. This is Peter to tell us about it. Thank you.
Hi.
Second. Good day, everybody. Thank you very much for the introduction, Mrs. Chairman. Behind me, you see the floating farm, actually. So I would like to take you to our farm. I would like to tell something about the history of our company. Why did we start? Where did we start? I want to take you to where we are right now and what is our vision on the future, what will be next steps. So I'm going to switch on my screen to take you to some slides, and we'll look into the reason why we started this. Okay, I'm going to open the PowerPoint. I hope everybody can see it. I will turn it into play mode, and I'm going to take you from there. Okay, is this working well? Can anybody see if it's working well, my slides?
Все видно, спасибо.
Yes, we can see it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so our company is called Floating Farm.
We missed the sound. I don't think there's any sound.
Фу. У нас прекрасно. Что такое город будущего?
What is a city of the future? What do we mean by living in the future? We all depend on internet and its stability. We will be able to listen to Peter a bit later. Let's see if whether we can get connected one more time. All right, let's rearrange our order a little bit, and we'll ask Pascal Hardy about the Aeroponics company in Paris, France. Are you with us? Hello. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, we keep losing our speakers here from foreign countries, and I hope they will join us later and everything will be fine. Now let me give floor to Alexander here. Your case has to be presented. It's good that you will be speaking first and you will tell us about the achievement of our country. I will not disappear from your screens even if the internet is disconnected. You can use indoor farming or vertical farming or any other terminology, how it will change the cities we live in. Let me start with the photo of how bad vegetables can be. They can be rotten, they can have signs of damage, they can have mildew. Sometimes we witness that. But there are certain types of products, ultra-fresh products. They are brought from faraway lands. They may have grown in summertime where they were produced, and we eat those products where we live in other time zones. Now, in villages in the countryside, people eat very fresh food, and in the cities, residents cannot choose what to eat, and there's a general trend for the market where you can meet the farmers and ask them where that was grown and how it was grown. Lots of farmer markets are opening and have been opening in Moscow. In Moscow, there are a number of open-air and city markets where ultra-fresh departments were established. You understand where it was grown, but beyond those markets, what we get is not the farmer's product. The average tomato, it takes the average tomato to go 3,000 kilometers to arrive. And it's a real torture of tomato. They grow specific breeds or types of tomato. Then they harvest it green. They treat it with pesticides for it not to be eaten by pests. And there was a time when we imported tomatoes from Morocco. Can you imagine where Morocco is? It went around Africa and it ended in St. Petersburg seaport, and now it went to our products. Most of ultra-fresh format products are still produced in Russia, but 50% are imported from other regions here in Russia, let's say Krasnodar, and it takes a considerable time to travel. And there are some berries and salads where we import 90% of them from abroad. And every day, residents of cities have to eat these products that are not fresh enough, that are tired after sort of traveling, being transported. You can build greenhouses, of course, and transparent greenhouses. It takes 3 hectares for it to bring return on investment. They require a lot of light, and you have to have certain area that you would allocate for those farmers. Vertical farms are a solution. It's where you have these shelves that are indoors, and when there is no sun, if we fix the slides, you will see how it looks like. And since this controlled air environment within, you don't have to use pesticides. And it's grown an hour away from your consumer. And that's already in the city or in the locations where we feed people. I work for this company called iFarm, which develops these solutions and builds farms of different sizes. They may be integrated into shops, restaurants, residential buildings, container solutions, and sometimes these are individual factories looking like buildings, also to produce food. We are still fixing the issue with the presentation. We do need those pictures. I want to see whether I can install that kind of farm in my kitchen or not. Since it's not in your kitchen yet, let me describe it to you. We install them in the Moscow shops. Oh, here are some photos finally. There are a number of formats. Sometimes these are big industrial farms that produce tons of food. It's like vegetable and berries producing a factory, some spices. We even produce edible flowers. Usually it's somewhere in the suburb. We have one near Vnukovo airport in Moscow. And sometimes there are farms right inside the restaurant. And when you come to that restaurant, you can always point with your finger and say, I want this or that plant. And sometimes clients take photos how the waiter gets it from the shelf and delivers it or sends it to the kitchen. Some farms are located right in the supermarkets. There are some of them in the Moscow supermarkets. It's something live that people can get right from the shelf. We have container-based formats. You can bring them to a parking near you and immediately start growing it and selling it or eating it right there. And that's your farm in the kitchen. This is how it looks like. We are not selling them yet. These are just pilot samples. And this is near the entrance to a residential building in Helsinki. And you can enter your building, and in this public space you can get some of those greeneries, and then you can order it for later. That's in one of the Finnish cities. We have built quite a few of such farms. We hope there'll be more of them, and we hope it will be part of the global trend to grow food right in the cities. It's tastier, it's greener, and it's fresher. We use all sorts of technologies, drone, electronic vision. We don't force our city farmers to study agronomy or hire specialists. They just get a box. It can be a bigger box, a smaller box. There's this electronic system within it that controls all the system. And we also supply expendables. You don't have to learn a new trade or profession. You just buy or rent this box and feed the seeds and plants inside. Even now, you can already buy it in Moscow restaurants or supermarkets, and it's has the same price as that tomato that arrived from Morocco. Since we can have this dialogue with the city authorities, let me tell you that innovation-based farming has certain problems. In this case, we need electricity. We don't use sun. We rather use light-emitting diodes, and Moscow is helping us. And on top of Skolkovo, and the Technopolis, there will be a food tech cluster in Moscow, in the south of the new territory of Moscow. We also need access to agricultural loans, because regular farmers get a special loan because they have agricultural lands. In the city, you cannot do that. And we have to wash and dry our products, because these are the state requirements for fresh products or ultra-fresh products. We think that the vertical farms will change the cities. We will have a mix of dark kitchen, dark store, or dark farms, and we will have residential buildings with indoor farms already pre-installed. Let's grow our products together and come and visit us to see how it all works. Thank you very much. And it's not just about the offers that you had for the government, but let me also ask you, how long have you been working? 4 years. In 4 years, what are your clients' wishes? What kind of problems do they face? Let me tell you, as a consumer, I get my fresh vegetables and my greens sort of semi-fresh. It's already tired. And what kind of problems do your clients face? What kind of risks do they see in that business? And it's about leasing and agricultural loans. You cannot get good loans using our equipment as collateral. A good industrial farm may be worth hundreds of millions of rubles, but you cannot use it as a collateral for the loan because it's not a tractor. You cannot resell it. And our banks, including Rossельхозbank, the main agricultural bank here in Russia, is not willing to use leasing schemes with us. Why can you not resell it? Who needs specialized equipment except all of us? This innovative farming has just been born. When you use your tractor as a collateral, you can sell it to another farmer. And in this case, it's a big, complicated box, and only other such farmers need it.
I also saw a comment on the slide, which I think is quite important, which was related to hydroponics. Do you have something in our regulations? Yes, we have a law concerning the hydroponic products, and I actually promote it and support it, and it's good that we have it now. But unfortunately, the wording of this law is a little bit outdated because it repeats several myths. For example, that the organic food can be grown only in the fields and only far away from the city. And here, from the ecological point of view, the product which is grown inside the box, we do not have any pesticides, we do not have any chemical treatment, but we cannot certify it as an organic product. And in USA, in Korea, in Japan, the hydroponic products can be certified as organic, but here we cannot. And I'm sure that we will have the second reading of that law, and even what was grown inside the urban area will be recognized as organic food. Anatoly, I think you need to jump in and to explain how it works in restaurants, because you are the person who uses that. Well, I am not a person who's against something. I would not say something bad about you. And I actually wanted to say a few words about our point of view, how we work with hydroponics. I am not a person who would support hydroponics. I am more about supporting farmers, and we have the whole network of farmers with whom we cooperate. And now we have the new restaurant lockdown, and everyone knows that we have to get a QR code. That means that the number of visitors reduced by by around 80%. And as for the farmers who grow the products, we have 250 kilometers from Moscow, and we have a lot of farmers. And we agree about the volumes and about specific products 1 year ahead. And currently they do have difficult times because their products are growing at the moment, and they do that not only for the selfie restaurant, but it's a whole chain. We have like 30 restaurants. It's a group of companies, and we are opening not only in Russia but abroad, and that's why we purchase big volumes of such products. And we agree, for example, about the zucchini flowers. And all our guests adore such. I'm speaking about Muscovites, and this is very good organic food, and I'm sure that they would use ash at maximum. And he has 150 different grades of tomatoes, for example. Unfortunately, we did not find the Russian grades because after the blind testing, we did not find anything good. Most of the times it's American grades. But we support our farmers, and we even treat our guests for free. Because, for example, the farmer had a loan taken and he had to repay that loan in September. Okay, returning back to hydroponics, so there are very interesting parts, for example, edible flowers, greens, several types of salads, and so on and so forth, which we grow. And our company works with that, and St. Petersburg company also have a very good recycle when you can use for example, the tubes, and using which you can have a very good vertical farm. And we use that not only as something utile, but we use that also as a decoration, as a part of interior. But anyway, I wanted to explain my pain in a different area. We are working in restaurants, and when we speak about chefs, we can achieve and get good products, really good products. But the ordinary customer would get what is sold in ordinary supermarkets. They do not have access to farmers, and that's why this whole story with farmers, which is growing here in Moscow and Moscow region, it's really good. But if you go to any market, you will see only around 10% of real authentic products. And you go there and you will see an old lady who will tell you that she grown them, but it's not true. We are waiting for Barnauls, well, I'm sorry, not from the Barnauls, but from Orenburg tomatoes, for example. And yes, they have to pass 3,000 kilometers. And only at the end of July, at the beginning of August, we will have those tomatoes which are grown here in Moscow region without any coverage. And 10 years ago, I used my own car and I went around the Moscow region, and we found farmers, we developed them, and we tried to work with them. Currently we work with Instagram, and it really provides very good result. But I am supporting the farmer markets of the weekend. For example, I loved Los Angeles and I cooked there. I adore that city. I like to communicate with people who grow everything by themselves. And it could be a top manager with his or her wife, and they can grow a fantastic berry, for example. And they come to that market. It's not about money, it's about culture of sharing your emotions, sharing some products which you could grow. It's about this culture. Unfortunately, here in Russia, we do not have such culture when we speak about the urban environment. And I think this is something painful for ordinary citizens because they do not have access to such gorgeous products. For me, being a chef, of course, it's very interesting because I am able to create using them. We may have our cultural code, our habits, our legacy, our history. And we demonstrate that to different types of tourists, and we can even grow some products which are not available in other parts of the world. Yes, but I think that we need to comment upon that. That was parsley, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, we have several types, and the type depends on what we want to see. If we want to see the green, or if we want to see the root part, you do not pay attention to that product. They are absolutely ordinary, nothing extraordinary. For example, we have 20 types of carrots, from white to purple. This is the first carrots which we receive. Probably it's the tastiest carrot. I understand it's 2 hours drive to megapolis, and it's normal that in the morning the farmer picks the products, then brings it to your restaurant, and in the evening you already treat your guests with that. If we speak about vertical farms, that's cool. If we speak about non-seasonal products, for example, in Los Angeles we have Vespertine restaurant. This is an amazing restaurant. We have the queue there. It is constantly fully booked, and it has a great vertical farm at the backyard of his restaurant, where they have racks. And you understand the climate is different, and you can grow something even during winter. But anyway, they have the special coverages, which through which natural light and air penetrate. And for example, we also have a great geranium restaurant in Copenhagen, in Denmark. So they grow edible flowers, absolutely different flowers, whatever you want. So you can grow it and share your emotions with your guests. And this is a kind of an experiment. You can submerge into that emotions. And we tried to grow different types of stuff. For example, we grew a white beets, and everyone forgot about that. So what I'm saying, that was the beets from which we started to receive sugar afterwards. Everybody forgot about it. Nobody remembers that. And we can have some other ideas of vegetables over which nobody could even heard. And if you know, for example, what is the flower of some particular plant, you can have it and you can cook it. And here is the example of what our colleagues do. It's about live spices, and they have different ideas. Oxalis, according to the scientific enumeration, it grows very well in such conditions. It's a good story. But for me, I cannot understand how you can grow vegetables. If you speak about salads, spices, edible flowers, fresh greens, something like that, that's good. I support it. I use it myself. But when we speak about tomatoes, for example, or carrots, I am not able to imagine that at the vertical farm. And also there was a great exhibition which is held in Beethoven. It's about design, but not design of interiors, but design of mindsets. And huge corporations hunt gifted, talented people. And there in 2017, they also had a great idea with the vertical farm, and it was very well implemented. And also we had a very interesting story with the farm when on top you have the salads, and below the salads you have fish, and they have such a symbiose. And it's also a very good idea. And there was also one more idea, which was concerning mushrooms. So you have kind of a house for mushrooms, and not only for mushrooms to which we get used, for example, champignons, or you can, for example, grow truffles or some other types. Any types of mushrooms can be grown there. And I was also supporting this idea, and probably we should also start doing that. we're going to pick the flowers in the forest. Yes, and we are working on this idea concerning mushrooms, and we would like to implement something similar in our country. So that means that the vertical farms is a really nice story. Of course, it won't be able to remove all the issues regarding the high quality products for the urbanites, but I think it's better to grow vegetables and greens here at hydroponics as compared with the tomato which traveled like 3,000 or 4,000 kilometers. And I could not help but remember the words of Vladimir Vladimirovich that we were out of potatoes and we had to import from that country or from that country. And I understand that the vertical farm, it's not about carrots, as you say, and not about for potatoes. Probably for potatoes. As for carrots and potatoes, I cannot promise that. And for zucchinis, flowers, we can grow them all year round. And you can treat your guests only with that during several months. But it's haute couture, it's haute cuisine. Well, I mean, people would like to eat the same vegetables or zucchinis flowers during all the seasons. For example, but I think that it's the issue of education once again. It's about if you want to treat your guests with strawberry during winter. If you don't want, you say seasonality. If you want, then you have to say that we use the hydroponics. Well, when we speak about haute cuisine, it means that it depends on the season. For example, today it's the 1st of July and we have a very slim carrot and it's fresh new, and you need to learn how to enjoy that. For seasonality, I think that's my sore point. I support everything local and seasonal. For example, when we travel in Europe and you are in Barcelona and they have the season of artichokes and we all eat them there. Or then, for example, you come to Venice and you have the strawberry season there. Everybody eats it and everyone eats that. And this is a mixture of everything. Tourists who receive a great experience, farmers who receive money, and so on and so forth. And afterwards, you have the asparagus season, and it is present nearly everywhere in all the menus. And for me, being a consumer, we have the understanding. That means that my guests should understand what season it is. If it's autumn, then we need to look at mushrooms, for example. If we speak about summertime, then probably we will have fresh berries and fresh greens. If I have a lot of fish in my menu, that's probably because I am at the seaside. It's important for my clients. And we have seasons for different products. People understand that they can have the fresh product only right here and right now, and afterwards it will be available only in dry, for example, form. But people do not want to eat it in dry form. Okay, colleagues, let's try to connect Peter.
Спасибо еще раз.
Thank you once again, Peter. Let's continue watching the presentation. I'm very eager to speak about dairy products.
That sounds very good. I am disabled to share my screen, so not sure why, but somehow it's disabled. So let me do it just without the slides in this case, and tell you a little bit about the floating farm that we developed. You can see it here in the back of me. You can also see the cows running. So for us, it's really important to produce healthy food as close as we can get to consumers. We know that worldwide consumers move and live inside cities. We call that urbanization. And finding space inside cities is a big challenge for many, many big cities. So you can do it on rooftops, as we heard before, you can do it in caves, but coming from the Netherlands, obviously we looked into the water. The water is a very, very universal media. So the water in our port is the same as the water in New York or in Moscow. Water is universal. So what we build over here is very scalable, and you can copy it immediately everywhere in the world. So we are on the water. We have a tide over here of 2 meters. So we're going up and down every 24 hours, 2 meters. That simulates the climate change we have. So what we see in the world is more and more rainfall, sea level rising, and land subsiding. So the land is sinking as well with the same speed that the sea level is rising. For us, that's not a problem. We are there on the water, so we will go up and down together with the water. This is also why we started. We started in New York City after Hurricane Sandy, and we saw what happened to the city due to Hurricane Sandy, completely flooded. And one of the effects was that there was no healthy food available in the city anymore because the city is completely depending on transportation. So we want to shortcut that, produce as locally as you can healthy food, shortcut transportation, the pollution of transportation, create much more awareness, like the former speaker also mentioned, designing awareness. Creating awareness is for us really, really important. And over here in the port of Rotterdam, we started with a very difficult item. How can you manage large animals inside the city? In our case, we started with cows. So we produce dairy, and the dairy we also process into customer products like milk, like yogurt, like butter, and stuff like that. And we sell everything inside the city of Rotterdam. Now, the cows are being fed with rest streams, waste streams, residual streams from the city. So we collect, for instance, the potato peels, we collect orange peels, and we sell all the products back in the city. So to give you a nice example, we bring our milk and our yogurt to the retailer, and the retailer who presses orange juice give back the orange peels, and they go to the cows and they upgrade it to protein again. So we are a true example of the circular economy. We are extremely sustainable, and everything we design behind me is very animal friendly. So we collaborate with the universities in our country, and behind me you see the building over there. So it is a 3-layer building. On top there are 40 cows who produce fresh dairy, and they also produce manure. The dairy we process into consumer products, and the manure we process into fertilizer that goes back to the city also. So it's completely circular. We collect rainwater, we have power from our floating solar panels, and from the urine from the cows we make clean water again that we use as irrigation for our land. And now we are designing number 2, will be next door, where we will produce also floating. We produce vertical farming over there, also in a very spectacular way and completely climate independent. If you like, we can start a little video maybe from the studio. If not, I keep on talking, or maybe there are questions from the audience that I would like to have. And I'm listening to the organization. Do we start a little video maybe?
Мы бы очень хотели посмотреть видео.
We'd really love to see the video, and we're already seeing it actually.
Super nice. This is the moment, May 2019. So 2 years ago, our cows came in. That was a very special moment for us. And this was more than 9 months before the pandemic. So everything from the food we sold to all companies 2020, when the pandemic hit also our country, we changed our business model to a B2C model. So we only sell to consumers, and slowly all retailers and companies and restaurants, and we supply our hospitals come back now again. They are starting up. So I have a little short second video. I'm asking the organization, can you start the second video? Then you have a little drone video from the farm and where we are positioned. We are positioned in the port of Rotterdam. Here you go. Here you see the building. It's a 3-layer building. So on top are the cows. We collect rainwater from the rain, obviously, that goes to drinking water to the cows. And next door you see our floating solar panels. We produce approximately 50% of our energy demand. And here you see on the first level our cows, and on the top level our cows, and on the level below you see the processing area where we process the dairy into consumer products, and where we also process the manure into fertilizers. As I was saying, we collect all kind of waste streams, and we turn it into protein in these products that we sell. It's a fast-growing brand in our country, and we will expand more units in our country, in the Netherlands, and we have a lot of requests from all over the world. We had received many visitors from all over the world to see if this could be a solution to feed the world in a climate-changing world. So just briefly, this is my introduction, and thank you for that, and thank you for listening, and I'm open to questions whenever the chairman wants to do these questions.
Конечно, есть. У меня есть совершенно детский вопрос.
I have a childish question, actually, about, we saw this 3-storied building. Next to it is this pasture. How big is that field with the grass? Is there enough room for the cows on that floating field? What about reproduction of cows? Do they multiply there? Do they reproduce? Do you breed them? That's it, the number of childish questions.
No, they're very good questions. Thank you for that. Actually, you have 3 questions. Is the pasture big enough? Yes, the pasture is very big for them because they do not eat from the pasture. They only do some romancing and playing with each other because all the fresh food is continuously in the stable. So as we know, a cow approximately lays down 14 hours a day, and they eat 6 hours a day. So most of the time you need to have a very good bed, and you need to have very good fresh food. So the stable is designed together with the university over here. It's a very large stable. So there is a number of square meters per cow. We doubled that. We have rubber floors. We have rubber beds. We have always fresh water. We have always fresh food. So animal welfare was absolutely #1 on this one. And yes, we also breed our cows ourselves. So they are born. Maybe you can see in the background some little calves. Well, no, you cannot see them. So we have our calves, and but we're only depending on the permits. We are only allowed to have 40 cows over here, and our calves also count. So they're a bit illegal, but we are collaborating with another farmer, a regular farmer, where they can grow up and then come back when they are 2 and becoming a cow and giving milk. I hope I answered your question.
Коллеги, скажите, будут ли у вас какие-то вопросы?
Let's see, colleagues, if you have any questions. I'm not sure if you're aware of that or not, but in Israel, they, for example, breed pigs on platforms. It's about their religious bans, but this idea of a floating platform is amazing. Would our guests in Moscow want to ask anything? Well, anyway, thank you very much, Peter. I would write to you some emails about pastures and cows and how do you collect their waste, manure and urine that you have to have on your pasture. But it's about technology, I'm sure, where there's engineering thoughts, right?
That is correct. That's a good topic. We have many robots inside, so it's fully robotized. There's a lot of technology. We have our own technology to collect the manure, to split the manure into dry matter and into urine, From the urine, we take again the water that we use as irrigation water, and the rest is fertilizer. And we can run everything by our phone. So it's a high technology farm, and is really attractive to talents who wants to become a farmer, but on the other hand, also wants to move to the city. So what we see happening in our country, and it's a worldwide trend, young people moving to cities. They don't want to take over the farm because it's a heavy work, it's often dirty, and our farm is in the city, completely robotized. So a lot of data, and young people love to do it like this with their phone. So they have all the data, they can manage everything. So it's a high-tech farm.
Спасибо еще раз за потрясающий.
Thank you very much for this amazing presentation. Anatoly gave us a thought that it will probably be transformed into energy, and it's also time to talk to Pascal now. I hope he is online. This is the largest European vertical farm company. Pascal, once again, hello.
Окей, хотелось бы послушать ваш опыт.
All right, now a few words about your experience, and if you could share your solutions with us, it would be interesting and good for us.
Yeah, with pleasure. And I will soon also share my screen so that you can have a visual impression of what we do. So I just want to tell you what we do very simply, and then maybe what it means for us. So while I'm speaking, I will show you a video report that
Вы
was
можете
made
поделиться
by
экраном прямо сейчас.
French TV on what we do. And what we do is very simple, and it aggregates parts of things we have already heard about before. We design and set urban farms that use three techniques basically. The first technique is about what is called aeroponics. So they are growing towers. The second technique is gutters. So we're talking about hydroponics. And if you can confirm, you can see my screen now.
No, we didn't.
You don't. Okay, so I will try to.
Now it's on. Now it's on.
Oh, it's on. So that's perfect. Thank you. The third technique is a very basic one because it's just soil in tanks. So we combine with these three techniques to set farms, and this one is to be the largest in Europe, but we only have installed 1/3 of it for now, and we did this during the pandemic. So how do we do this? We just set farms on rooftops. We try to combine the best of vertical farming, but without artificializing the atmosphere. So that's why we can be outside or in a greenhouse, but never indoor. And we try to use the best of other basic techniques, especially organic techniques. So the idea is to produce with no pesticides, of course, with organic quality and respecting seasons. And the main point maybe is that using the proper nutrition technique for the plants, we have plants that are very often better taste and better food quality than organic food. So that's interesting. We try to do our best to use the best of the different techniques, but without repeating some mistakes that were made in I would say, industrial agriculture. Of course, we do this in Paris, we do this in other parts in France, and we will be soon able to set farms elsewhere, because our model is to sell the farms and all the technical support that is necessary to run the farms. And we use very light equipment that can go on almost in any rooftop. And now you can see the tanks for classical cultivation, and these are dedicated to the people living around. They come by themselves and cultivate by themselves. And this, the other parts with aeroponics and hydroponics is a more professional one, and we deliver food to restaurants, to supermarkets, and places like that. So this is basically what we do, and I would like now to share something with you concerning the meaning of that, because we have the idea that, of course, we shouldn't reproduce some mistakes that were made by what we call industrial agriculture, especially in France, concerning, for example, the use of water, the use of pesticides, and other techniques. And so I won't be long on that, but it is important that if we want to prove that is an available and reasonable model for urban agriculture, there is no point using the same techniques. We must integrate the constraints of climate change, of reducing chemicals, etc., etc. Or for us, it has no meaning. So that's why we want to tackle these issues, even if it's harder, because not being indoor, for example, and not lighting salads when there is sun outside, it's less comfortable for us, but it's more virtuous in environmental aspects. Of course, as everyone who has talked today, we try to tackle the food miles problem. So I won't be long on that because it's obvious for everybody. And we even now refuse to deliver our products. And for example, the supermarkets that are interested in our products, they come to the plant and they include the stock to our plant into their delivery circuits, so that there's no additional carbon emission for delivery. So this is the way we work. Of course, we try to tackle the land crunching problem that shows in every big city in the world, and also the heat island problem, because if you come on one of our farms, then you will immediately feel the temperature difference in winter, in summer also, and so that's important to optimize these aspects. So land crushing and heat islands. So this is the kind of installation we do. This one is on the rooftop of an hotel near Paris, and the whole production of these towers goes to the restaurant of the hotel. So there's zero food mile. Mm-hmm. Also, of course, we deliver in supermarkets. That's obvious. So, and this is a large picture of the site you've seen before. It's inside Paris, so it's a very, very urban environment. So, just a few minutes to speak about the meaning of that. Why should we grow food in towns? Just because, in our opinion, we have to admit that we entered the Anthropocene. And whatever we do in food production has an impact. So it's much better to integrate all the constraints I quoted before to produce food and to tackle, for example, food miles problem, because we cannot produce without measuring all the consequences. And urban farming allows this, and it means also that we have a change in the way we view living spaces, we view plants. We are no more in an era that we were conquering the planet and mastering the planet. And this is a picture taken from Brazil, but this is exactly what we should stop doing. It doesn't mean that we should bring that into the cities. We must use the techniques to use the best of life and to serve the better life. So it's a two-way. It means that we integrate into ecosystems and no more in industrial view of the nature. And also it changes the way we see the cities. This is a picture of a sort of cabbage, but it's a fractal picture. A fractal is a picture, as you know, if you zoom on one part, you will have exactly the same type of image you have if you have a global view. What does it mean? It means that, for example, you have, in the classical vision of a city, you have places where you work, places where you sleep, places where you shop, for example. But when you integrate all this, and for example, you have a building with a urban farm on the rooftop, then flats, then offices, then shops, then under the floor you have a car park, for example, then you integrate all the functions and your city appears as a fractal. And it is very important if we want to have something very efficient in terms of environmental and economic resilience of the cities, to see the cities as a fractal. And this gives this type of projects. This is a real one in the center of France, we are in contact with, but we also can develop other views of the city. And I want to quote this architect doing fantastic things. He's a Belgian architect named Vincent Caillot. And this is a future vision, of course. But as you can see, even the structures are inspired by nature. And I think that this kind of view, this one is more or less like a hive, should nourish our projects because we must now activate the way we see the future in the present, because as you know, it will be very soon too late if we don't do it. So that's the meaning of what we do in Paris. And I'm now ready to answer your questions if you have any.
Конечно же, есть вопросы.
Of course, we have some questions. My other colleagues here may join me, but your presentation is in line with what Alexander was saying here in Moscow. You have a little bit of a different scale, but the principles to farming may be a little different. You may have bigger space, or they may have vertical structures. But Alexander mentioned that it is really hard to do it in Russia because of our legislation. We have certain difficulties due to the regulation of this business, of this area. What about Paris?
Especially concerning organics. We do not have the right to use the organic label, but doing exactly the same thing we do in France, we would have this right to use the organic label elsewhere, for example, in Denmark. So we have the same problems, basically. And I was, with Alexander's presentation, I was very struck by the similarity of the situations and the issues. And I thank him for that, because that shows everybody that we are now in the global world, and the problems are not so different from Russia to France or to Netherlands or elsewhere.
Спасибо большое. Стало как-то...
Thank you so much. Now I feel a little bit calmer. Thank you. It's easier for me to understand that you also have similar problems. But I would also like to pay your attention that myths, prejudices, and maybe a lack of education also in points of view of legislation when we speak about organic products. So how it makes our life more difficult. I think that we need to have further education, and when we have a pandemic, we need to understand what is the difference between bacteria, viruses, what does it mean to grow vegetables, what is seasonality, how cows grow, and so on and so forth. Denise, I am very eager to listen to you because you are representative of the enlightened, let's say so, minority, which allows us to regulate that market. And I would also like to understand how it works here in Moscow. And specifically, I was impressed by the story of the former tobacco plant. Thank you very much for calling me the enlightened minority. But actually, it's very nice to be the latest speaker, because you listen to the other speakers, you make some notes, for example, concerning strawberry. You said that in many countries you come and you have the strawberry festival. And as of the 1st of June, we have the festival of strawberry and garden strawberry. We have 120 locations here in Moscow, and more than 600,000 kilos of strawberry was already sold. And I think that as for the tastes of the strawberries, I think we also need to distinguish between that. Of course, I'm joking. It's again as about the vertical farm in your kitchen which you would like to purchase. But if we return back to the experience of our grandparents, you could see such minor farms on your own kitchen. And as for Moscow, which participates in development of the agriculture in general, I think it's unique because here we are in the capital, have the role of the agricultural producer, and in some areas it's not minor. And when we are having now the new territory of Moscow in Kalushsky region, which is currently New Moscow, probably we could use those agricultural legacy, and probably that's why we decided to support agriculture, and more than 800,000 rubles were transferred to support agriculture in Moscow region. On the one hand, the amount is not very huge, but if we will look at the number of enterprises which we support, we will see that the figure is quite high. And if we get back to the previous year, it was a pretty serious amount of money, 86 million rubles, and we provided that to the company which constructed greenhouses. I'm speaking about Moskovsky Agricultural Unity, and they do not only grow vegetables and greens and salads, but also flowers. And as for the formats, yes, we do have 8 different formats of support with which we work, and this year we have already allocated 40 million rubles for support in our budget, and for the next year I expect we will have a similar figure for our agricultural entrepreneurs. But anyway, I think that we will be able to review the parameters, and probably you will be able to apply for the public support, for the state support from the city. And again, when we start doing something new at the start, initially we face some challenges, some difficulties. Probably we'll be able to settle that a little bit later, including the regulatory framework, because it's not only the regulation on the level of Moscow city, but in general. And I would also like to note, if we're able to go to my slides, I could show what I wanted to explain. Can we run my presentation? Can we run my slides? That's good. Okay, returning back to what was said by Anatoly, it's about the culture of weekend markets, for example. And I think that here we have a lot of such types of markets. We have more than 70 sites where you can sell your produce free of charge. You may also apply for a place at such a marketplace. And also we are working on a new format, interregional marketplaces, and it's not simply the sites which are being created to ensure have more places to sell something, but it's a big job actually. I went to regions myself, and I had around 700 kilometers each trip, and I searched for farmers who can produce some specific products. And this is a great job because Moscow is really, really interested in the high quality food. And on our side, the city tries to create good and accessible points to make sure that everyone could come here, have a place at the marketplace, and sell. We have equipment, for example, the balances are available. That's why from our side we are investing a lot of time, money and effort. And for example, my recent trip to Kursk region was quite fruitful. We have a factory there which grows champignons, and they cover like 20% of all the need and demand here in Russia. They have similar technologies, but of course they use soil there, not hydroponics. We speak about mushrooms. Yes, we speak about mushrooms, naturally. And as for the marketplaces, I have already mentioned that. I don't think I will dive deeper into that. And as for the idea how we should treat such system and the position and attitude of Moscow, we've just seen the video about cows, and I thought that you had demonstrated big interest in that. And we do have similar cows here in Moscow. Of course, they cannot afford sleeping 14 hours per day, but they are also still quite interesting. And tomorrow we're going to have a farmer who is going to speak about his cows, and he has a very big number of cows, around 500 cows. That means that, however strange it sounds, Moscow is an agricultural region. And in addition to Alexander's words, we also have other companies. Ruseco, for example, was the first company that was the first Moscow city farm, which specializes in growing fresh salads. And we used to have Liget Ducat factory which produced cigarettes. Later on it was preserved, and the tobacco company moved. And now we have Ruseco there. They invested into the equipment, and they have 6.8 hectares. And we tried to find some similar experience in Europe, but unfortunately we could not, because this is a very big area when we speak about such land in such a format. And as for the volumes of production of this particular company, then we may calculate their maximum capacity. In this case, that will cover approximately 15% of consumption for greens here in Moscow. And of course, in this case, we can speak about the food safety of our city, and this is a serious enterprise. You can see pictures on my presentation. And I would also like to mention Vnukovo It was already mentioned by a colleague of mine. Using iFarm technologies, we had another enterprise open in February this year, and they also work. Now they have 6 tons of yield per month, and I need to say that we use a lot of Russian materials and a lot of, for example, metal structures which were manufactured here in the territory of the Russian Federation. And as for the technology, they also accepted the experience of Japan, for example, and used that. We understand that we work in the global economy, in global production, and we use the best options. There is no sense to create something which is already obsolete or outdated. Let's return back to the support. I already mentioned that we have 6 areas of support of agriculture, and in addition to that, Moscow constantly conducts tenders, and the company which we've mentioned, City Farms, greenhouses, was the laureate of Mayor of Moscow, and they received financial support. And let's return back to that tomato, which we've mentioned thousands of times today. I would say that here we consume even more tomatoes than recommended by 3%. Muscovites indeed like tomatoes, and if we speak about cucumbers, we can cover 100% of consumption with our greenhouses, and this is the most recent information which we received from our union, Greenhouses of Russia. And we are very close with that, with the tomatoes. We will be able to grow in greenhouses nearly 100% of the demand. And as for the open and growing them in fresh air, I'm afraid we do have different climate and we won't be able to do that. That's it. I'm ready to answer your question. Alexander, okay, I would ask you, when are we going to have the innovative food tech cluster open in Moscow? Was the land plot already allocated? Do you have some list of residents? And if the land plot is allocated, then where? Well, I think it's not the question to my department, but indeed, but we speak about the production in the territory of Moscow. Yes, you're right. We have a solution about the creation of such a cluster. Let me clarify that with my colleagues, and as we are acquainted right now, let's call each other a little bit later and we will discuss when it's possible. But in principle, the decision was already taken. And what about the draft laws? Probably we should initiate the issue on organic fruit and vegetables. I separately did not push the GMO topic, but I actually wanted to understand your opinion and your attitude to that. It's a question for me, a big one. And they are related to fears related to GMO, and also our legislation supports that fears. I think we need some, not facilitation even, but push in that area. Okay, it's really good that we, being an agricultural area, Moscow, cooperate with the Ministry of Agriculture. And I think that such push should be initiated by the ministry. And I think that if you go to them, then you will be able to understand what is happening. And we need to understand that sometimes we have some differences in the evolution of the environment and legislation framework. Probably we are lagging behind with the legislation. Probably we go a little bit ahead of the situation. But we need to consider that. Frankly speaking, I see future in such small farms because we had some alarming conversations several, let's say, years ago that we are losing a lot of seeds. For example, that great, big, large farmers are having just one grade of tomatoes, one grade of cucumbers or carrots. And you understand that when you purchase carrots for 100 rubles, and those are the carrots which are actually the carrots grown for feed. And in this case, we do have some alarms. But I think that when we speak about new trends, we see the future. Probably we'll be able to preserve cultures, we'll be able to preserve seeds. Well, actually, everything is okay with agriculture and with carrots as well. But as our president said, we are not having our yield yet. But what we had harvested before in the previous year, it's already over. And that's why we have such drops when we have to switch to the import products. And in this case, the price is rocketing, you're right, but it's not triggering some fundamental problems. For example, potatoes and beets did not have a great yield last year. And this is the same situation with carrots. And I would like to remind you that we all live on the global international market. It's not possible that carrots in Europe costs like 3 euros and we have like 1 euro, for example. Naturally, we can have such drops and such peaks of prices, but they are reasonable, they are justifiable. It's not because someone decided to earn a lot of money on carrots. We do have such jumps, and the Minister of Agriculture is aware about that, and we take stabilization measures. And we used to have such stabilization measures for that notorious buckwheat, for example. And of course, it's good when within the city we have something produced. And when you look at such business, you need to think not about the image, not only about the environment, not only about the sustainability, but also you should look at the economic component. If it is economically reasonable, then the investors will bring their money. They will create more and more such type of companies. And then, of course, we will have some balance, because if we have a lot of producers of similar products, for example, in Moscow region or in the nearby regions, they will be the backbone of our supply chain. And of course, the money will be collected by the companies, and for example, Ruseco is not working for full capacity, and currently they cover 15%. They will understand that they can earn money, and they will expand, and they will cover 100% of demand. Probably such conglomerates will have future, and if we have this in the territory of Moscow, that means it is not just an image. It means it may be economically sustainable. Dear colleagues, friends, thank you so much for such a session. For me, actually, I was interrupted because I wanted to know a lot. I have a lot of different questions. It's good that the Ministry of Agriculture was mentioned many times, and I would like to speak about our colleagues today. Denis Kosternoy, First Deputy Head, Department of Trade and Services of the City of Moscow. Alexander Lyskovsky, President and founder of iFarm Novosibirsk. not from Novosibirsk. I am from Moscow. But why do we have Novosibirsk mentioned? Yes, we have R&D center there, but I live in Moscow, and this is the best city ever. And what about Novosibirsk? Okay. Okay, Anatoly Kazakov, chef, selfie restaurant. And we also had finally Peter van Wintergen. Thank you so much. And Pascal Hardy. My name is Ksenia Chudinova. Stay with us. See you later at Moscow Urban Forum tomorrow. Bye.
Yeah. Hi. Hey, hi.
Hi, Peter.